Hola y bienvenidos. Hello and welcome to Viernes desmitificador, Demystify Friday. This is the Friday series where I try to take the mystery out of a Spanish language concept that you've come across but that hasn't quite been taken up directly in class. Something you're just curious about or would like to learn to do in the language. Today's topic, los diminutivos y aumentativos. Now, I have to say, this week's topic is by student request, and it comes with a big disclaimer. I am not a sociolinguist, and there are people whose whole job it is to look at how Spanish is used by real speakers in real communities. So consider this video more like my own notes from the field. And while I can attest that I have personally heard all of the forms that I talk about in this video, with these corresponding meanings, there are as many forms of diminutivos and aumentativos as there are Spanish-speaking communities. I'm willing to bet that native Spanish speakers might listen to this video and say, what? That's not what that means. And they would be right. That's not what it means to them as people from Spain or from South America or from the Caribbean. So your individual mileage may vary. And I encourage you to become a close observer of the diminutive and augmentative forms that you hear out in the wild in the Spanish-speaking world. In Spanish, diminutivos y aumentativos refer mainly to suffixes that we use to modify the meanings of nouns, adjectives, and other parts of speech. They're in widespread use, especially in conversation, although some native speakers find them an annoying speech pattern. More on that later. Whatever it is that you're talking about, a diminutive can make it seem smaller or younger. Tengo un gatito blanco. Él dejó un pelín en mi suéter. My kitten left a teeny little hair on my sweater. A diminutive can make it seem endearing, like when we count a child's deditos, little fingers, or when we use one to take the edge off of a word, like gorda. If gorda is straight up fat, gordita might be pleasantly plump. Or a diminutivo can lessen the importance of something or lower the temperature surrounding a conversation, like when I ask a friend to do me un favorcito or to wait for me for just un momentico. Probably the most common diminutive suffix in Spanish is ito, and there is some rhyme and reason to the ways that ito can be added to a word. If your word ends with o or a, replace the final vowel with ito or ita, so that the phrase mi hija Ana becomes mi hijita Anita. You can also add ito or ita to words ending in most consonants. You could call un papel pequeño un papelito. But if your word ends with e, n, or r, add an extra c. Check out this avioncito de papel, and that just one more cup of coffee that I drink in the afternoon is un cafecito. If I take the examples from the previous slides, I already have a variety of suffixes to choose from. I could invite a friend out for un cafecito, un cafecillo, or un cafetín, depending on where in the Spanish-speaking world I am. And in fact, there's no single right way to make a diminutivo. You'll hear a variety of different endings, and they vary according to different dialects, that is, speech habits in a particular region, sociolects, speech habits of a given social class, as well as idiolects, the speech habits of individual people. Some common variations on the suffix ito are illo, some little bread buns might be panecillos, ico, and in. Some words actually have meanings that hinge on these suffixes. Un calabacín is a zucchini, where calabaza is a big squash, like a pumpkin. Where diminutives can make something smaller, augmentatives make it seem bigger, or more important, or conversely, undesirable, big in an unwieldy way. I might call attention to what a great friend someone is by calling her my amigasa, especially if mi amigasa just did me un favorzote. I can emphasize what a big deal someone is and how she likes to throw her money around by calling her una mujerona ricachona, or how serious our problem is by calling it un problemazo. And I can amplify something in a negative way by adding the suffix ucho or ucha. Va a ser difícil vender esa casucha feucha. It's going to be hard to sell that big old honkin' ugly house. To create an augmentative, I can add the suffixes aso, ote, ota, on, or ona to my word. Take a silla, make it bigger, and put cozy arms on it, and abracadabra, you've got a sillón. A lingering smooch turns a beso into a besote, or un besazo. And if your head is bigger than the average cabeza, you might be accused of having a cabezota, but careful, because cabezota can also be an adjective signaling that someone is stubborn. Here again, there are different suffixes that can augment or amplify nouns and adjectives, and it comes down to the dialect, sociolect, and even the idiolect of the individual speaker. One person's besazo is another person's besote. You may also hear some augmentative prefixes like super, and especially in Mexico, re, and the super augmentativo requete. Between las pizzas que son super buenas, los sándwiches que son re buenos, y los pastelillos que son requete buenos, I'm definitely going to opt for a cupcake because I'd be crazy to pass up something that tastes requete bueno. So, what do some native Spanish speakers have against diminutivos? Well, to some folks, it sounds like straight up baby talk. For others, using words like, es mi sueñito comprarme una casita. It's kind of just my little dream to just buy myself a little house or whatever, is a self-minimizing bad habit where we're shrinking ourselves to take up less rhetorical space. Heavy use of diminutives is often associated with feminine speech patterns. People tend to look at it the way that we treat upspeak in English, which is the tendency to end statements like a question. Or another supposedly feminine behavior, vocal fry, where young women speak with a sort of buzzing sound, especially towards the end of their sentences. But linguistic research has revealed that vocal fry is not unique to young women, only it's called out more when a young woman does it. And the same thing happens with diminutives in Spanish. When linguists at the UNAM, Mexico's prestigious national university, studied the use of diminutives by men versus women, they blew a giant hole in some of those stereotypes. Although they did find gender differences in the ways men and women used diminutives, their study found that the men in their survey actually used them more than women did. It could be that diminutivos are associated more with women because they're often used when speaking with children, or because women often consciously try to shrink themselves in the rhetorical space to speak in a way that won't be perceived as overly assertive. Whether or not that characterization is accurate, it could be that speech patterns we regard as feminine are uniquely susceptible to being treated as annoying or distracting or unprofessional in multiple cultures. Love them or hate them, diminutivos y aumentativos really are in frequent use throughout the Spanish-speaking world. So I hope that after this segment, they will be leaping out at you as you listen to Spanish, and that you feel inspired to experiment with creating and using some diminutivos y aumentativos of your own. Gracias y feliz fin de semana.